Okay, so picture this. You're totally alone, right? Like in a situation where things couldn't be more intense. Maybe you're an explorer, navigating some seriously dangerous territory. Or, hey, maybe you're just trying to get through a crazy, stressful day.
We've all been there.
Exactly. And right at that moment when you feel like you just can't handle another thing,
Yeah.
you get this like unshakable feeling that there's someone else there with you, someone
Oh,
offering guidance, comfort, almost like, I don't know, like a guardian angel swooping in when you need it most.
it's a powerful image.
It really is.
Yeah.
And that, my friend, is the heart of what we're diving into today, third man syndrome.
And for everyone listening who's ever felt that strange sensation of not being alone, even when logically they know they should be, this one's for you. Because this isn't some new age idea. This concept, this experience, it echoes throughout history. We see it pop up in different cultures, different times. Heck, there's even a T.S. Eliot poem about it.
Right. And what makes this deep dive even more fascinating is that we're tapping into this incredible well of personal stories, like firsthand accounts from a Reddit thread where people just opened up about their own brushes with the third man.
And you know me, I'm all about bridging those gaps between, well, everything. And what we're seeing here in these stories is this amazing intersection of psychology, human resilience, and maybe, just maybe, a touch of the unexplained. Now, science does give us some clues. For example, studies using fMRI have shown that under extreme stress, the brain regions that usually light up when we think about ourselves, about who we are, they can actually quiet down.
Really?
Yeah, it's like our sense of self gets a little blurry, which might explain that feeling of an outside presence. Some researchers even think it's our brain's survival instinct going into hyperdrive, like it creates this hallucination as a way to help us cope.
It really makes you wonder what our brains are truly capable of when we're under pressure. Take, for instance, this one story from the Reddit thread. This person had been shot, left for dead. Can you imagine the terror? And they credit their survival, their ability to find the strength to get up, to an unseen presence guiding them to safety.
You know, I went into this whole thing pretty skeptical. But the more I dug into these accounts, the more I noticed these patterns, these common threads that just kept popping up. The feeling of a presence, the sound of a voice, and often it's their own voice, but like,
Not quite.
exactly, not quite them. And then there's the guidance they receive. Sometimes it's super practical, like step-by-step instructions. Other times it's just this wave of reassurance, this feeling of, you've got this.
It's like this presence shows up precisely when you need it most. But it wasn't always just voices people were hearing, and that's what I find so intriguing. Some people actually reported seeing specific figures, which makes this whole thing even more mind-boggling.
Oh, absolutely. Like, take the story of this trucker who, after this horrific accident, was convinced another driver had pulled him from the wreckage. He even described the guy in detail.
And when the company checked their records,
The other driver didn't
it's
exist?
gone, vanished. Or how about the hiker who was warned about taking a certain path? A voice, seemingly out of thin air, told them to turn back. Later, they found out that that very path had collapsed.
And if they hadn't turned back, who knows what would have happened? These stories, they really get under your skin, don't they? They make you
Yeah.
think twice about the limits of what we know about the human brain, maybe even the universe itself.
It's like we've got this incredible, untapped potential just waiting to be unlocked.
It really is remarkable.
And sometimes, in those moments of extreme stress, we get a glimpse of what's possible.
The glimpse behind the curtain.
Exactly. But what if this third man, this presence, is actually something more ancient? Something woven into the very fabric of our being, of our evolutionary history.
And now, that's a question that deserves a deep dive of its own. And you know what? That's exactly where we're headed. We'll be right back after a quick break to explore the fascinating theory of the bicameral mind and how it might just hold the key to unlocking the mystery of the third man.
So before the break, we were talking about this bicameral mind theory. It's a bit of a brain twister.
It really is. It suggests that way back when, early humans didn't experience their thoughts the way we do now. They didn't have that inner voice, that running commentary, in the same way.
So what did they have?
Imagine your own thoughts, your inner monologue, but instead of it being internal, you experience it as someone else talking to you.
Whoa, that's wild. Like a constant conversation going on in your head. You think it's coming from outside of you.
Exactly. Now, it's just a theory, but it makes you wonder if these third-man encounters could be, I don't know, maybe tapping into some ancient wiring in our brains,
Yeah.
like a holdover from a time when the experience of consciousness was totally different.
That's a mind-blowing thought. That somewhere in our evolutionary past, the line between internal and external voices was blurred. It's like these experiences, these third man encounters, are giving us a glimpse into how our ancestors might have experienced the world.
It really challenges our very understanding of what consciousness is, doesn't it? And what we consider normal ways of perceiving reality.
Absolutely. But one of the things that really strikes me about these stories is how the third man doesn't just offer comfort or a vague sense of support. Often the guidance given is incredibly specific and practical. Like, remember that hiker we were talking about? It wasn't just a feeling of unease that made them turn back, it was a clear warning about that specific path.
And that's a really crucial point. It's one thing if these experiences were just about easing anxiety, like the brain trying to soothe itself in a moment of panic. But these cases where the third man provides strategic advice, where it warns of unseen danger, that's where things get really interesting from a scientific perspective.
It's like some part of the person's subconscious was already aware of the danger, even if their conscious mind hadn't caught on yet. Could the third man be like, I don't know, like our own survival instincts, but disguised in a way that our conscious minds can actually process,
Yeah.
especially in those super intense moments?
It's definitely possible. I
Well,
mean, our brains are incredible. They're constantly processing information, picking up on subtle cues in our environment that we might not even consciously register. Maybe, just maybe, the third man is how that subconscious risk assessment, those internal alarm bells, break through to our conscious awareness.
and what about the cases where the third man isn't a voice, but an actual visual apparition? Like that Redditor who said they saw a figure during a medical emergency?
Oh, right. They said the figure just pointed them to the exact medical supplies they needed, and then poof, gone. Those visual experiences add a whole other layer to this, don't they?
Right, because it'd be easier to dismiss all this, wouldn't it, if it was just about hearing things, auditory hallucinations, stress, whatever. But when people start seeing things, especially in such vivid detail, it just makes you wonder.
It really does. And what's particularly interesting about the visual experiences? They often align with the person's cultural background or their personal beliefs.
So you're saying their own individual perspectives, their own worldview, it influences what they see.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Some people see religious figures, others see loved ones who have passed away. It's like their minds are drawing on familiar imagery to try to make sense of this extraordinary, inexplicable event.
So the third man, this presence, it's almost like a mirror reflecting back our own beliefs, our own fears, our own hopes. Maybe that's how it helps us through those incredibly difficult moments, by speaking to us in a language we understand, as we've gone deeper and deeper into these third man syndrome accounts. It really hits you, just how much is still out there, stuff we don't understand, hidden beneath the surface of our everyday lives.
It's humbling, isn't it? We walk around thinking we've got it all figured out, and then, bam, something like this comes along and reminds us how much we don't know about the universe, about our own minds.
Totally. We've got these incredible firsthand accounts, these raw, powerful experiences, but we still haven't found that one definitive answer, like trying to nail Jell-O to a wall. You know what I mean?
And maybe that's part of what makes it so fascinating, right? The fact that it defies easy explanation, that we
Yeah.
can't just slap a label on it and call it a day.
It really is the ultimate mystery. But even without that concrete answer, even without knowing for sure, I think just exploring these stories, just listening to what these people went through, it can teach us a lot about ourselves, about our resilience, about the incredible things we're capable of when we're pushed to our absolute limits.
I completely agree. Whether it's survival mechanism, some kind of evolutionary holdover, or a glimpse into a dimension of consciousness we're just beginning to understand, or it's something else entirely. Third man syndrome really drives home the incredible adaptability, the hidden potential of the human mind.
It's like we've all got this secret weapon inside us, this reservoir of strength and guidance, just waiting to be tapped into.
And wouldn't that be something if we could learn to harness that power intentionally, unlock the full potential of this third man phenomenon?
Now, that would be a game changer. But for now, I think the most important thing is simply to keep an open mind, to listen to these stories, to acknowledge the experiences of those who have encountered the third man.
Because whether or not we ever fully understand it, there's something deeply human about sharing these experiences, about finding connection, finding meaning, even in the face of the unknown.
It's about realizing we're not alone in this. And, who knows, maybe, just maybe, if we're lucky enough to experience the third man ourselves one day, we'll be a little more prepared, a little more open to the possibility of the extraordinary.
Open to the possibility that we're capable of more than we ever imagined.
Exactly. So to everyone listening, the next time you're facing a challenge and it feels insurmountable, like you're totally alone, remember these stories. Remember the third man. Because you might just be surprised by the strength, the wisdom you find within yourself.
Waiting to be discovered.
And on that note, that wraps up our deep dive into third man syndrome. Until next time, keep exploring, keep questioning, and as always, thanks for listening.